It's Tuesday, January 20th, and Washington is still looking for a defensive coordinator. The Senior Bowl is coming very soon, and we finally made an offensive line coach hire. Let's get to it. What it do and what's going on, Washington Commanders Nation? It's your boy Rio Robinson back with the latest and greatest on the Rambling with Rio YouTube channel, where we ramble about our Washington Commanders. It's Tuesday, January 20th. The divisional round has just concluded, and Washington is still without a defensive coordinator. And we're going to get to why is that? Who are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? And how patient should we be about the defensive coordinator hire, considering how swiftly the offensive search went through? But divisional round is in the books. Bo Nix and Drake May, Jaden Daniels' 2024 draft class compatriots, are both in the AFC Championship. Only one will be playing because sadly Bo Nix broke his ankle. Prayers up and a speedy recovery to him. Caleb Williams not so much able to join them, even though that was an incredible feat to send it to overtime. We're looking at Rams Seahawks. It's Sean versus Mike and Sean versus Mike on both sides of the conference championship. But considering Washington doesn't have too many guys they're waiting for that are in the playoffs right now, what is Washington waiting for to make a hire at defensive coordinator? But before we get to the defensive coordinator, we did make some hires, y'all. So the offensive staff is rounding out for young David Blau. We hired DJ Williams last week to be his quarterback coach. DJ Williams ended up being the only outsourced hire of the group, the only hire that we made outside of the normal realm of promotions from within. It ended up being Doug Williams' son, DJ Williams, who's already been in that position for Atlanta. Stefanski gets the job there, no longer needed his services there in Atlanta. So technically, considering how he's Doug Williams' son, did we really make an outside the building hire? Call it what you want. We made the offensive line hire. I know everybody was perplexed when they announced not only Cliff Kingsbury and Joe Witt were fired, but Bobby Johnson would be no longer kept. And you know, for an offensive staff, after the coordinator, the most important hire in that group is the offensive lineman hire. And we hadn't heard that they had brought anyone in for interviews yet. And now we understand why. We get a tidbit about Darnell Stapleton being on the staff for the Senior Bowl coming up in Mobile, Alabama in a couple weeks. And then boom, the news comes out. Darnell Stapleton is promoted from assistant line coach to the offensive line coach. And Shane Toub, I'm going to say Shane Toub, who was a quality control coach, he is now your assistant offensive line coach. And I started doing some research. Remember, we said the only reason Bobby Johnson would have gotten fired right away, because he's one of the better position groups on the entire staff, was that it's going to be a change of philosophy or a change of scheme coming for Washington in 2025 and 2026. And as you can see, looks like it's the case, because as I started to do my research on one Darnell, what's his name? Darnell Stapleton. Also, congrats on the promotion, by the way. As I started to do my research on said man that's on the screen, there is a whole coach's file of him when he was an offensive line coach for, I believe, Florida, the University of Florida, where he goes through the entire zone scheme, basics, and fundamentals. Washington was not running a zone scheme. They were running a gap scheme. These are different philosophies and different principles. You can find a whole, I'm not getting a Coach Tube account so I can view all this shit, but there's a whole like 12 file tutorial of him breaking down the zone scheme basics and fundamentals. So there's experience there. He's done it before, not at the professional level. He's been an assistant at the professional level. He's been an offensive line coach before. Washington's changing their scheme. It makes sense. But Dan Quinn is putting his trust, he's putting his faith into the hands of guys that have never done things before. And I respect it. We don't know how it's going to play out. It could all come crashing down in his face and it may not work. But there's a world that he had the foresight and the vision to trust the younger guys that we already had. I know coming into this process, we were sitting here saying, why would we promote from within anywhere? Well, I'm glad that the promoting from within came from the better side of the football, which is the offensive side, because nobody in the defensive staff, you could sell me and give me any positive going into it on that side of the ball. On the offensive side, sure. I'm not saying Darnell Stapleton can't do this job. I'm not saying DJ Williams or David Blau can't do their job. I will tell you straight up, I would be very negative if they end this defensive coaching search with a promotion from within from our already current defensive staff here. So as I look at that, it's very interesting that we still haven't made a defensive coordinator hire yet. My guy, Mamba Fats, man. What up, Big Sean? Appreciate you for locking in with me for 17 months. Says, I think this is an O-line hire. It hints to another clue that David Blau was the true hire. Oh, yeah, for sure. Fired Bobby Johnson off the rip, and now we know that his assistant DB are aligned with each other. Yep. It's all aligned. It's all aligned. It all makes sense. And them not bringing a impressive name brand candidate at the offensive position shows me that David Blau was the plan all along. Now, what is the plan for the defensive side of the ball? What is the plan for the defensive side of the football? Because as we sit here on January 20th, we're playing a waiting game, and I'm trying to figure out what that's for. What is the waiting game for? What do y'all think the waiting game is for? Are we waiting for a particular person? I know Jonathan Gannon has another interview with the Dallas Cowboys for their defensive coordinator position today. I know Brian Flores has another interview for the head coaching job of the vacant spot at the Pittsburgh Steelers today. The head coaching cycle has been brought to a cease, and it's slowly starting to matriculate. Harbaugh takes the Giants job. Saleh took the Titans job last night. Kevin Stefanski got the Atlanta Falcons job. We've interviewed Patrick Graham, Bernard Wilson, Joe Cullen, Carl Scott, Brian Flores for the defense, and Jonathan Gannon for the defensive coordinator position. Nobody that we interviewed other than Brian Flores we need to wait for. We interviewed Carl Scott while he was in the middle of the divisional round, and they took care of business. If you see the way that those DBs fly around in Seattle, you can see why Carl Scott is somebody that would be very high on the list to get the defensive coordinator job. Are they waiting for Brian Flores? Because if so, that is a dangerous game. That is a dangerous game, and that's how you get to the end of the line with no candidates left. Honestly, I think these guys are going to be – I think the guys that we interviewed, most of them are still going to be out there when we get through this process and figure out what Brian Flores is doing. But unless Brian Flores gave you some type of inclination that he's considering taking your job, what are we doing waiting for him? What are we doing waiting for him? You know, Miami's job. Yep, you're right, Kenny. Miami's job is also filled. Jeff Hafley, defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. What exactly are we waiting for? Two things strike me as very interesting in this process. Everybody was all over early thinking that Raheem Morris and Jeff Ulbrich were going to be the two people with ties to Dan, that Dan would be all over. Well, Jeff Ulbrich was retained. Jeff Ulbrich was retained by the Atlanta Falcons' new staff, which is Kevin Stefanski and company. And Raheem Morris, I believe he interviewed for the Tennessee Titans head coaching job. I believe he's the only one. I believe that's the only interview I've seen Raheem go on. I've read a couple things saying Raheem is considering doing TV. He's considering just doing TV for a little bit. But it's interesting to me that we haven't seen an interview between Raheem Morris and the Washington Commanders yet, because that feels like an easy connection and an easy conversation to set up. I think they're trying for Flores. Give me Scott. Appreciate you, Jern. Day one game. What up, family? I want Carl Scott. Me personally, I want Carl Scott because I feel like he has the most realistic upside. I don't believe Brian Flores is a realistic candidate for it. I'm going to keep saying that until they prove to me otherwise, because we're going to watch Flores go through these head coaching interviews, and then Minnesota's going to bring him back in, and we'll see if he tells them no, because they're got to offer him a contract at this point. But for them to be still waiting here, they don't need to wait for Carl Scott. They don't need to wait for Patrick Graham. They don't need to wait for Denard Wilson. They don't need to wait for Joe Cullen. They don't need to wait for Jonathan. Well, they kind of do need to. No, they don't need to wait for Jonathan Gannon, even though he's interviewing with the Dallas Cowboys today. He interviewed on Thursday. If they wanted him to have the job, they could have offered him the job right now. So there's this pragmatic approach has to be for something. What is it that they're waiting for? Don't tell me that it was Albrick the whole time, and after Albrick got hired, it's back to the drawing board. I don't want to play the pivot game. I don't want to play the game where we don't have a date to the dance at the end of the line. What are we waiting for? I want to know what the plan is. Sean McDermott, recently fired head coach of the Buffalo Bills. I imagine he gets a head coaching job if he wants one. There's still 6 openings in the NFL. Sean McDermott not good enough to get another head coaching job. Also, quick tangent, quick side note. I have to go on a tangent real quick. What up, my brother? How we doing today? I got to go on a quick tangent real quick. The way that I see the media caping for and dick-eating Josh Allen is some of the most embarrassing shit I've ever seen in the history of football, bro. I see younger quarterback. I see rookie quarterback. I see my second-year quarterback who was plagued by injury get more heat than Josh Allen did for turning the ball over 4 times in a fucking playoff game and inevitably losing and failing again. That shit is embarrassing. Y'all need to pick your chins up and wipe the drool off your faces, because y'all don't give that same grace to other quarterbacks in this league. I understand Josh Allen is the golden boy. People consider him the best player in the league, best quarterback in the league right now. Y'all need to give that boy the same scrutiny that y'all give other people. Y'all scrutinize Mahomes more than him, and Mahomes has been in like 5 Super Bowls. What are we talking about, bro? What are we talking about? CJ Stroud rightfully gets slandered, getting his back kicked in all over the timeline. What a disgusting performance he put out in the divisional round. Shit, Drake May's shit was not pretty either. Every quarterback in the NFL can be rightfully scrutinized except big, hunky, 6'5", 240, boy next door, Josh Allen. Y'all need to cut that bullshit out right now, because he got his coach fired. Josh Allen got his coach fired. You don't turn the ball over 4 times. Your coach is still coaching, and y'all are 1 game away from the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, bro. All your demons were eradicated this year. Patrick Mahomes was not in the playoffs. You still didn't get it done. You played like shit in the divisional round. I don't want to hear nothing about no refs or no bad calls. Josh Allen didn't get it done. Point blank, period. Y'all need to scrutinize that nigga with the same veracity that you do other quarterbacks. End of rant. Would y'all be interested in Sean McDermott? Would y'all be interested in Sean McDermott? I'm not sure if Sean McDermott would be interested in us. And that takes me to my next point. I feel like we have to take one of these hires with upside that is not as attractive to fans. Well, Carl Scott could be exciting if you know his background and you've heard that brother talk before, because he knows it. But for someone like Brian Flores, other than money, sell me on why he would come here, bro. We don't have defensive talent. We're going to be out here selling him on niggas that are not on the roster right now. Hey, yo, this is what I can get you in free agency. This is what we potentially could have in April when the draft comes around, even though we don't know, because we decided we're going to pick 7. So we don't know what's going to be there when the 7th overall pick is on the board. But what is Brian Flores coming here to coach? What would Brian Flores be leaving a good situation that he has established in Minnesota to come to Washington to coach the defense for. The Vikings don't have blue chip players either, but they have players. They have more defensive talent than Washington. They don't have demons running all around, but Brian Flores gets the best of them. We don't even have what Minnesota has here right now. We don't. We have like 2 young players that you could look at and say, this is what we have right now. We selling them Mikey Sainris still, Johnny Newton, Quan Martin. Oh, we got a Will Harris. We have 1 cornerback, Trey Amos, that you should be excited about when you look at this job. We have no fucking edge rushers. We have a decision to make about Daron Payne. Javon Kinlaw's making more money than he should, as is Daron Payne. Dorrance Armstrong is your best edge, and he's coming off of tearing his knee to shredded beef. So what are we really selling? What are we really selling? Give me Carl Scott, man. I look at that Seattle defense. I'm not saying Carl Scott is the reason why, but that boy has been developing DBs since he was at Alabama. And there's a reason why boy genius coach Mike McDonald kept Carl Scott as a part of that staff. He's my favorite. Here's where I think this is going, though. I think we're going to end up hiring Patrick Graham or Jonathan Gannon or Denard Wilson. It's going to be one of those 3. Fans are going to fucking hate that shit when it happens, but I'm going to trust the process, and I'm going to also trust that the top guys for the job. Well, Carl Scott would take this shit because this is a major upgrade and promotion to what he currently does as the passing game coordinator and DB's coach in Seattle. But I don't see how we sell this position other than money to a guy like Brian Flores, man. In the words of Louis T, make that ass. Hey, we gotta chill, bro. Lou gotta chill with that shit, man. Lou gotta chill with it. Hey, man, Patrick Graham, Ivy League education. They like him in Vegas. I'm not gonna love it. I'm not gonna do cartwheels over that shit, but he's done this shit before. He's done it before. It's not gonna inspire the fan base to go out and feel optimistic going in. And I think regardless of the hire, we're going into the season with a lot of question marks anyway, because our OC's never OC'd before. And our defense was booty juice for the last 2 years. And on top of it being booty juice, hella people got injured, and we don't know what the free agent plan is this year. And if it's anything like the last 2 years, not saying it's going to be that, we don't know how much better personnel is going to be when we walk into this season. But we're going to see. We're going to see. I'm very, very curious as to how this plays out, man. But Carl Scott intrigues me. Carl Scott brings me a lot of intrigue. Brian Flores feels like what we're waiting for. So I'm going to throw out a couple scenarios, and I want y'all to react accordingly to each. So we get through this process, right? We get through this process, and we interviewed all these people. We wait till about a week before the Senior Bowl, and the hire is Raheem Morris. What's your reaction to such? Because I like Raheem Morris as a defensive coordinator. He's not going to excite you guys, and y'all are automatically going to hate it because he knows Dan Quinn. But Raheem Morris can call defenses. My whole thing would be, why did they wait until the end of January to hire Raheem Morris? That brother ain't never been more available than he is right now. He was the first nigga fired in the hiring cycle. Raheem Morris came off the podium of his last game. He went to celebrate victory with his team, and he was fired in the middle of that shit. Raheem Morris has been available. So if that's the route they go, why did it go that way? Why did it go that way? I'm trying to understand that part. I'm trying to understand. I want to understand that since we're being patient with it, we're taking our time with it. What are we deciding between? Because if you vetted and did your due diligence about Patrick Graham and Denard Wilson and Jonathan Gannon, Carl Scott and company, what are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? And I think this whole barometer of, I don't want anybody that hasn't coached the top 10 defense before. Nah, I think that's also some fan bullshit. That you can coach defense without having coached a top 10 defense in the league before. Also, we're not going to be a top 10 defense next year. I want to wake you guys up right now and alert you. No matter who we bring in this bitch, we are most likely not going to be a top 10 defense. But what we can be, we can work our way into a top half of the league defense one, and we could be a defense that gets to the quarterback and forces turnover. If they're doing that, I don't give a shit what the ranking is. If they're giving Jaden more opportunities with the football, that's an upgrade. If they're pushing teams and we're winning the game of field position, that's an upgrade from what we already have. Expecting us to go from 31st to 10th just because of a name calling the defense, I think that is not realistic, and I think we need to go back to the drawing board with our expectations of what this hire means. A great hire can drastically rise the ceiling or the floor of next year, but thinking you're just finna hit the ceiling, like we get Brian Flores, he better be getting us a top 10 defense immediately. I think that's irresponsible. I think that's setting yourself up for disappointment, and I think we would be drastically improved. But listen, when you're 31st in the league in defense, drastically improve could mean going from 31st to 17th. I'm gonna let y'all stew on that for a moment while we pay the bills a little bit, man. Shout out to Sleeper.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using code RIO91. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
Yeah. So, how much longer do y'all think we play this out? Because I feel like we should be hearing something any second now, any day now. Maybe we have to just wait out the Brian Flores thing. How long are you willing to wait out the Brian Flores thing? Are you willing to wait to see what he does? You wait for him to go through his head coaching interviews, wait for him to hear back from Minnesota. Are you willing to wait out? Because I'm willing to wait out if there's a realistic option for us to get him. I'm willing to wait it out. I'm willing to wait it out. But I'm not willing to wait it out if there's no realistic option. If this was a pity day, I'm cool. If this was a pity interview, I'm cool. If this was let me just go see how the streets is feeling about me. Let me get a temperature check for what how much people want me out here, then I'm not sure. But I'm willing to wait it out if it's realistic. If it's not, let's get a fucking coach in here. And let's put this game plan together. Let's go up to the Senior Bowl and let's start draft season and let's get ready for free agency because I want to know what type of defensive scheme. I want to enjoy doing a mock draft. I need to know what scheme we're running because all of our conversations about the draft can change in a second based on what coordinator they bring in here defensively. I'm excited, though. This is exciting. This is exciting. Until we wake up to that news that's underwhelming as hell. And, we're going to wake up to Patrick Graham has been hired. So, of the names that we know already, Graham, Cullen, Gannon, Scott, Flores, Wilson, which name would be the most underwhelming to y'all? Which name would be the most underwhelming to you guys of a hire for Washington? I feel like Patrick Graham being the first interview out the gate and coming from Vegas, I feel like most of y'all are going to say Patrick Graham. It feels like Patrick Graham would be the one the fan base is least into. Not a single cartwheel would be done. I feel like the eat your vegetables move that would be made that people wouldn't love right away, but it could end up being a good one, is Cullen from Kansas City. I mean, he's coached defense before in Jacksonville, long-time defensive line guru savant. That could potentially be a good hire. Fans not trying to hear that shit right now, but that could be a good hire. And people in Kansas City, they swear by that man. They swear by that guy. They don't play games about him. I'm curious, man. I'm curious to see how this goes. I'm curious to see how it goes, man. Y'all saw John Keim with Greg Williams on his podcast. The timing of that, I see what John Keim's doing, bro. John Keim trying to wake all the boomers up. Just bring him back. Just bring back Greg. Man, Greg Williams, wasn't he last coaching in the UFL or some shit? But I know somebody gonna say it. Man. So when we say Gannon doesn't have a long enough resume, are we? I like Carl Scott. That's my number one, bro. That is my watching that Seattle defense fly around. But nope, Louis sold me when I watched that Carl Scott 53-minute video. I also watched my boy Zach in the group chat send a Mike McDonald video about how pressure works in his defense. That's the type of shit I want in my building. Carl Scott speaks football in a way I haven't seen a defensive coordinator here speak like ever. That guy knows it. Carl Scott's a future head coach in this league. He's a future head coach in this league, man. I will gladly take that, bro. I will gladly take that over here for us, man. Crud Knuckles, what up, man? Appreciate you for rocking with me for 6 months. Wish we could have got Stefanski. Yep, he's a head coach, though. He's a head coach, and, he got bigger fish to fry than coming to DC. I think Blau is going to be the least of our concerns in 2026. I'm not trying to anoint him or knight him as the one, but I don't think David Blau is going to be on our list of concerns as we get through the 2026 season. And all of it will be for naught if we still got a bottom 3 defense in the NFL. And we're trying to figure out right now who the hell is going to right this ship and coach this defense. Because did y'all watch the divisional round, man? Did y'all watch these demon-ass defenses? Seattle's defense, the Patriots defense, the fucking Texans defense. And I know we all are looking goo-goo-eyed at the Houston Texans defense. You don't build that shit in one offseason. You don't build that shit in 2 offseasons. Maybe the earliest you could build something like that is about 3 to 4 off seasons, and it took years of picks and hitting on their picks because Nick Caserio, he does this shit in their front office. Seattle does this shit. They hit on pick after pick, and man. Boy, did they win the DK trade. Boy, did they win the Russell Wilson trade. I hate what CJ Stroud, we're going to call him Coleridge Bernard Stroud, did to that defense they have in Houston because they got wreckers over there. Will Anderson, one-man wrecking crew. Daniil Hunter, dog. Sheldon Rankins in that defense, dog. Aziz Eshair, a free agent linebacker that a lot of us wanted, dog. Lassiter and Stingley on both sides, demons. Oh, my God. The safeties, Petrie, Bullock, Reed. That type of shit, you cannot make that happen overnight. We go, man. Don't wish Rex Ryan on us, man. Don't wish Rex Ryan on us, man. The Texans gonna get good people in every draft. On every draft, man. But I'm excited to see where this goes. And Carl Scott is the guy that I'm most intrigued about. They got to prove me wrong about Brian Flores. They could be waiting around for Brian Flores. They could be at that man's door begging him for all I know. I don't know what's happening behind the closed doors, but I feel like the highest upside from all the people that these guys interview is this brother Carl Scott out of Seattle, man. This dude knows ball, man. Dude knows ball. Dude gets active, and that name's gonna buzz over the next couple years, man. Mike McDonald had no reason to keep him a part of that staff. Had no reason, and he did anyway. You know? Was anybody bragging about Gannon as a DB coach? I know Lou hate the concept of a white man coaching DBs. Oh man. I don't know if anything could ever be as big as that, but I think it's definitely big. I think it's definitely big. All in favor for me to sell my soul for us to get 10 rings. I could take one for the 10. Hey, brother, don't put your soul on sale. Listen, I know we would all do disgusting things to see this team flourish, but you don't got to do that, man. You don't got to do that. We're going to all sit it out and wait for as long as required for us to finally see this thing go. I'm watching teams, bro. The Broncos are in the AFC Championship. You know how fucking heartbreaking it is that the Broncos are in the AFC Championship and their quarterback got hurt at the end of the divisional round? They got to play fucking, Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham in the AFC Championship. And you know what's crazy is Sean Payton is so good at calling offense. I think they still could win this game. The Patriots are probably going to win that game, but I really think that they could win that game, bro, because their defense is fucking crazy, and Jarrett Stidham has at least been there. Jarrett Stidham has at least been in Denver, so it's not like bringing in veteran off the street, off the couch. It's someone that's been in the building all year. Yeah, I think the Patriots will win that game, but I'm not counting out the Denver Broncos in the championship round coming up this weekend, man. I'm not counting them out. I'm not counting them out at all, man. Yeah, bro. Save your soul, man. Don't put your soul on the line for this dumbass football team, bro. Don't do that. We love them. We love them. We do a lot to see success here. We don't need to do that, man. AP gonna have to promote Flores 5 picks of the choice and give him 5 picks of his choice in the draft. My thing is, I feel like if you bring Flores, you got to let him pick his whole staff out. Well, not necessarily because he's just the coordinator, but I feel like he's going to have his pick of some position coaches and have say in some of the personnel, because what we have here is not enough. I know Ron used to say it all the time. Everything we need is in this room. I wholeheartedly disagree. We need a lot of shit that's not currently in this building here right now. We do. It feels like they're waiting on Brian Flores. It feels like Jeff Ulbrich was someone they really wanted, and they're kind of pivoting again. But we don't know anything. We don't know anything. For the most part, things have been kept under wraps since these guys took over. So you don't know. You don't know. But I'm very intrigued of how the rest of this search goes. I'm very intrigued. So now I want to play the game of not who you want. Who do y'all think the hire is going to be? Gun to your head. You got to say it right now. You got to push all your cards into the middle of the table. Who do you think the hire is going to be? Think about that for a minute while I run an ad from our other sponsor at SeatGeek, Rio 10 on SeatGeek, man. Go get your Bruno Mars tickets at Northwest Stadium in May using my promo code Rio10. I've been looking to find the best deal on Washington Commanders tickets for the 2025 season, which is why I want to give the sponsor of today's video, SeatGeek, a huge shout out. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sporting events, festivals, and more. The NFL is right around the corner, and MLB is in full swing. I love using SeatGeek. Recently used it, lock in my training camp tickets. Most notably, I was at the Grand National Tour with my son, Kendrick Lamar, and SZA at Northwest Stadium. SeatGeek has your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 through 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. So look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And you know I had to come through for y'all using promo code RIO10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code RIO10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically sent to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, SeatGeek, for sponsoring this video.
So I think Jonathan Gannon's going to get the job. That's who I think is going to get the job. And I know a lot of you don't want to hear that. Even Rio, shut up. We don't want to hear that shit. I think Gannon's going to get it. I hope it's Carl Scott. But I think Jonathan Gannon is your defensive coordinator. And I think people are going to be depressed immediately because you're going to see a lot of corners giving big cushions, a lot of soft zone and stuff like that. And depending on what's up front to get pressure on the quarterback, then let's go get some guys that can get pressure up front. What is Rex Ryan's name in this chat for? Is Rex Ryan's name starting to circulate again? Because the only Rex Ryan I've seen is him making the worst takes ever on Get Up on ESPN every day. Is Rex Ryan back in the coaching pool? Because I've seen too many Rex Ryans in the chat today. I've seen way too much, bro. I think it's gonna be Jonathan Gannon, bro. I think it's gonna be awkward ass Jonathan Gannon. You want to know another reason why I think it's gonna be Jonathan Gannon? Because I don't know if I see Dan Quinn bringing in some needing of autonomy alpha male defensive coordinator. Jonathan Gannon is meant to be someone's beta ass defensive coordinator and just scheme shit up. Have no say other than that. No pushback. None of the above. I think we get Gannon. And I think Gannon would be a good hire. It's either one or the other. Like the people that say he did well in Philadelphia, he didn't do well in Arizona. I think it's somewhere in between. I think the guy can call defense, man. I think he can call defense. No matter who we get, though, we have to get talent in here, bro. We have to get talent, and we need to get younger on defense. We need to figure out if Frankie Louvu can do this shit for real, because used more as a linebacker this year, Frankie Louvu looked like dog shit. Trey Amos is our only boundary corner because I don't know if I need pick one between Noah Igbenogany and Jonathan Jones. None of them need to start on my football team, so we need a starting corner opposite Trey Amos. We need edge rushers. We need a plan at defensive tackle because I'm sure they're going to try to make fetch happen with Johnny Newton next to Kinlaw. I think Daron Payne, they're going to do the same thing they did with Jonathan Allen. They're going to float his name out there for a potential trade. And once we're not able to get the value we deem appropriate for him, he's going to be cut. And we're going to save almost $20 million when we do so. So, we need bodies and we need talent and we need to get better. And we can't be afraid to spend $1 in free agency, Adam Peters. Adam Peters seemed to me like a guy who understands the process when I see him speak with Dan Quinn at that podium. It seems like he gets it. It seemed like the approach is going to be different because we know how important this season is. We know how important this season is going forward because this is year 3 of Jaden Daniels. If Jaden is who we think he's going to be, we're talking extension in the extension timeline opens at the end of the 2026 season. And all of the money we put away for a rainy day is going to be for naught. If we get there, it's time to pay Jaden, and the roster still is porous with holes all around it. So, gotta have a plan, man. We gotta have a fucking plan. And I think these guys are going to have a plan. And I think these guys are going to be moving a little bit different than they have in the last 2 off seasons. I'm very curious to see, once we get to free agency, the 2 names that I'm most curious to see what they do with is Deebo Samuel and Bobby Wagner. I like Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel was a fine option for us this year. I don't think I'm re-signing Deebo Samuel. I don't think I'm re-signing Deebo Samuel, y'all. No matter what I feel about Bobby Wagner and how I want to get younger at the position, I think they're bringing Bobby Wagner back to start at Mike for us next year, man. I think we're getting Bobby back in 2026, y'all. Y'all yay or nay to Bobby in 2026, man. What y'all think? Y'all not trying to hear that shit. Y'all not trying to hear that shit. Bobby Wagner still a Commander in 2026. Because it's such a tough conversation with Bobby, because it's like, I would gladly take him back if his role could somehow be minimized. But Bobby still got too much left in the tank. He still got too much left in the tank to say, here, you're only playing this percentage of downs in 2026. He got too much. Like, man had 150 tackles, 4.5 sacks, a couple interceptions. He gonna be back, man. He gonna be back. Deebo, I bring him back for the low ski, nothing more than the low ski, but I would rather give that money to a Romeo Dobbs. I would rather give that money to a younger, more traditional wide receiver that just has a route package instead of a gadget package. I really think we could draft, sign for the low someone that can do all the gadgety or skibbity doodah package, as my boy Marshall likes to call it in our group chat, man. The way that I'm building this shit, bro, I'm letting them both walk. I'm letting them both walk, and I'm going elsewhere. There are better options out there, bro. Give me a Leo Chenal. Devin Lloyd is probably out of Adam Peters' price range, but there are good younger options at linebacker. Devin Lloyd is the best coverage linebacker in the game right now. He's going to have a market. I don't see why Jacksonville wouldn't bring him back, but I'm saying there are options out there and very much available. You know? Come on, man. Come on, man. Like, we don't have to just, shit's not working here. We don't have to just keep trying to make stew out of bullshit ingredients. I'm not calling Bobby Wagner that, because this defense would have fell apart without Bobby Wagner. I don't want our next defense with our next defensive coordinator to fall apart if Bobby Wagner's not on the field, because if that's the case, we have not improved at all. We have not improved at all. You know? I'm just saying. I'm just saying, man. We could do better. We can do better. Don't be afraid to do better. Sometimes it ain't about comfort. Shit, I wish Bobby could be a coach for us, man. I wish Bobby could pick up the shit. Bobby could be my defensive coordinator. Bobby is as smart as it comes. Do I know if he can scheme up a defense? No, but if anybody could do it, it's Bobby. Bobby's one of the smartest linebackers to ever play this game. But I need Bobby to keep it pushing, bro. I need him to keep it pushing, because we got to be able to run with some folks. Y'all seen the schedule next year, man? I'm looking at a bunch of teams that if they decide they want to make Bobby Wagner a priority to target, we have no shot, man. I don't want to see Bobby Wagner running in coverage with Bijan Robinson, with Saquon Barkley and shit, man. Shout out to Bobby, man. Shout out to Bobby and all that he's done for this organization. But it's a deuces situation for me, man. I wish him the best. I know he got a record that he's chasing. That record don't mean shit to me right now as a Washington fan. I know Von Miller got a record that he's chasing. That record don't mean shit to me right now, man. In my football fandom hat, I want to see those guys break those records. But in my Washington fandom, I don't need either of those records to be broken here. I'm cool. I'm cool on it, man. I'm cool on it, man. I'm cool. Hey, I know how we all feel about Bobby Wagner. I love Bobby Wagner, but man, we can do better at this current juncture. There are limitations that come with that, and he has too much left to accept any lesser role. You know, it's 2026. If your backer can't cover, what are you doing? What are you doing on Sunday afternoons, Monday nights, Thursday night? What are you doing if your backer can't cover? Frankie Louvu cannot cover Bobby Wagner. You can't start two niggas 90% of the time that can't cover. Louvu couldn't cover or stop the run this year. Louvu was just out that bitch fellowshipping with friends on Sunday this year. I don't know what Louvu was up to this year, but being the person that was highest on the top 100 list, his season was very rough, and we were so bad that most people didn't even really give it any credence or pay attention to just how bad Louvu was this year. Louvu was bad, y'all. Louvu was bad in 2026. So I need him to get back. I need him. He looked very lost this year. He looked very out of place. And I ain't like some of the answers I heard at podiums when he was talking this year. It sounded like excuse making. It sounded like everything but saying I was the problem at some points. Didn't look good. It didn't look good. We don't know what McGee is yet. We don't know what, because McGee be out that bitch running around lost as hell, but the athleticism jumps off the tape. Here's the thing. He ain't ever going to be found if he doesn't play more. We're never going to know exactly what Jordan McGee is if he's playing 20% of the snaps. We're never going to know. We're never going to know, man. We're never going to know. But don't be afraid to change this offseason. If fan favorites, they have to have a tough conversation and snip or let walk, don't be afraid of it, because those same fan favorites played on one of the worst units we've seen in the league this year and one of the worst units we've seen in DC in quite some time. We were historically bad this year. We were ass. We couldn't even stay in football games. We couldn't even gauge if Jalen Lane was a good punt returner for weeks because the nigga couldn't get punts. We couldn't force punts. We couldn't even see if our punt returner could punt return. It was bad. We couldn't stop a soul. We were getting running off the field. And I'm not going to forget how everybody thought Dan Quinn just miraculously fixed the defense. Defense was still super ass with Dan Quinn out there because we don't got the bodies. We don't have the talent. What we have in this building is not enough. And we cannot be afraid to replace almost any of these guys this offseason via the draft, via free agency. I would say via trade, but I don't know how even trades would be feasible for this team at this point. And I think we might have used up our aggressive trade arc for the foreseeable future. But first things first, we need to know who's coaching the defense. And my favorite is Carl Scott. Who I think is getting the job is Jonathan Gannon. And you start to have the conversation. Let's say it is Flores, though. Let's just have fun for a second. Let's say it's Brian Flores. David Blau and Brian Flores are your two hires this offseason. I've heard the way Colt McCoy and Ben Johnson and Logan Paulson and all these people talk about Blau. Blau has the potential to be a star. Brian Flores coaching defense is already a star. That's probably as good as this shit ever was going to get for us this offseason if that was the case. But with Dan Quinn, you bring in a Brian Flores. I know you like, if some of this feels like only fans look at it this way, but you bring in a Brian Flores, you really open that door of people saying, Brian Flores is a better coach than Dan Quinn, though. Like, is he really going to do that? Did you bring in your replacement? Hey, until I see Brian Flores get a head coaching job, I don't think he's allowed to have one because having a pending lawsuit against the league that you work for. Remember how hard Brian Flores had to scrap just to get on that Pittsburgh staff and to get his name circulating again for him to get an opportunity to be the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know if they're letting this brother get a head coaching job in this league. So it's DC or nothing. We got to be in these. We got to be texting Brian Flores and dirty macking, bro. We need to be dirty macking on the Minnesota Vikings. If they really loved you, why they let your contract up? Why they letting you test free agency? If she really loved you, why she put you on a break? Why she got you in the club seeing who's interested? Why she got you checking on your motion out here? A real queen would have had you extended. Would have had you one of the highest paid defensive coordinators in the league. I'm just saying. Cha-ching. Money talks, man. Money talks. Yep. You think we hired Denard Wilson? I wouldn't hate Denard Wilson. Do y'all remember when Denard Wilson was coming off of coaching DBs in Philadelphia? He has some buzz attached to him. Jeffrey Simmons swears by this guy. I wouldn't hate it. Would it excite people? No, I wouldn't hate it, though. I'd be cool with Denard Wilson. Another thing, it was a talent issue. Jeffrey Simmons and a bunch of guys over in Tennessee. So we're going to see, man. I'm very curious as to when do y'all think this is going to be announced? Because what are we waiting for? What are we waiting for, man? What are we waiting for? And if it's Brian Flores, y'all better have good reason to be waiting for it because waiting till waiting till the end of January to then settle for one of the first people you interviewed for would show me once again that these guys aren't closers here. And I don't want to come out of this cycle saying, oh, Lord, these brothers still can't close. I'm looking at some of the young head coaching options that we had, and we ended up falling back on Quinn. I want to know that these guys had a plan. The offensive side of the ball, there was clearly a plan. It was Blau or die. It was David Blau or nothing. They didn't bring one single reputable, overqualified, excite the fan base type offensive coordinator person to interview for the position. It was David Blau the whole time. You know, Vontae Mack, no matter what, the draft day movie, it was David Blau no matter what. They already knew they were promoting him probably from the second they said they were moving on from Cliff Kingsbury. And with the way they didn't seek many outsourcing hires for the staff other than DJ Williams, the new quarterback coach, which is technically not an outside the building hire for real, because Doug in the building, man. They're my boy. Doug said, hey, man, hi, my boy. But there's been some great talent in last night's game besides Bain. I like the few players on both sides of the ball. Hey, I see Mark Fletcher swing on that boy at the end of the game. Ruben Bain's a pit bull. Ruben Bain is a junkyard dog. Nothing about him looks like an NFL edge rusher in aesthetic, but God, he's relentless. He's like a starving dog out there hunting for T-bone steak. He's a dog, man. Akeem Messador, like 25 years old, he gets busy also. Injury history and age scare me, but he gets busy as well. Everything on Indiana's defense. I like them receivers too. Lou likes Becker. I love me some Amari Cooper. And shout out to Elijah Surratt, Colonial Forge alumni, by the way, in Stafford, Virginia. But there was so much talent on that field last night. That was such a good game too. Fernando Mendoza with the Heisman legacy play to close it out. My goodness. Carson Beck and his Ed and Eddie looking ass did exactly what Carson Beck would do in that situation to close out that game. But what a way to put a ribbon on a very fun college football season. It's officially draft season, man. We about what 10 days away from the Senior Bowl week, East West Shrine Bowl. We a month and some change away from the Scouting Combine, a month and a half away from the start of free agency, and getting this thing primed up and ready to go and seeing how Washington's moving in 2026. The off season is where we have the most fun. The off season as a fan is like living in a dream world, because in the off season, you don't have Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, Saturdays to humble you. You don't have game data to tell you you're wrong. You get to just have takes. You get to stand on them, and can't nobody tell you shit. You can beat your chest. You can say, my team is this, my team is that. And it's all just out there until proven otherwise. And then the season comes along and you're either proved right or you're very humbled, like we were in the 2025 season. Mr. Deacon, sir, appreciate you for the $4.99 super chat. Said, won't they have to wait for Scott since he's on a team still in the playoffs? I could be wrong, but I'm just asking. I don't think so. I don't think they have to wait for him, because they interviewed him last week. They interviewed him, and if Josina Anderson are correct, he was here. I think him and Flores were in the building interviewing in person last week. And they had a game last week in a divisional round, a game in which they scored a touchdown on the opening kickoff and did not need to score again to win, because they held that hot 49ers offense to 6 points. I think Shanahan's been held to 6 points twice in his career, and it happened 2 times this year versus that Seattle Seahawks defense. You know, the same way that people just hire and interview folks just because they breathe the same air as Sean McVay and Shanahan, I'm willing to do the same with a guy like Carl Scott, who works for Mike McDonald, who worked for Pete Carroll, who worked for the college football GOAT and Nick Saban, bro. I'm with the shits with Carl Scott, man. Hey, put Carl Scott in your YouTube search and just listen. That brother knows ball, man. That brother knows ball. It's going to be John Gannon, though. It's going to be John Gannon, though. Y'all ready for John Gannon? Going to be out here doing the fucking robot in his mic'd up sessions and shit, being super awkward. Y'all don't want John Gannon because he's weird. Keep it a buck, bro. Keep it a whole stack. Y'all don't want Jonathan Gannon because you got fire in your gut. Don't step into my room unless you got fire in your belly. He's such an awkward dude, man. Y'all don't want Jonathan Gannon because he's odd. He's peculiar. But I don't imagine we get through this week without information on the job. I was hoping the news broke while I was on stream. Like, I go here, yap for an hour or so. We're going to probably know who the defensive coordinator is. If you're just tuning in right now, we promoted Darnell Stapleton, assistant O-line coach, to be the new offensive line coach here. He has coached a zone scheme in college before, I believe at the University of Florida. We promoted Shane Taub, there we go. Shane Taub from assistant quality control coach to the assistant offensive line coach. And we're still playing the waiting game for the defensive coordinator position. Hey, Kenny, I like this positivity, man. We manifesting it. I'm crossing my fingers. I hope we've done a good enough job selling him the future of this program. I hope we put a stack of money on the table. I hope we dirty Macked his situation in Minnesota. Like, yo, if they really wanted you, they wouldn't be out here letting you interview for other DC jobs, man. We'll give you the assistant head coach title as well. Go ahead and run that back off of Brian Johnson. Hey, Brian Johnson, you can still do what you do over here, but you know what I mean? Assistant head coach belongs to Brian Flores. But very, very much so, man. Very much so. But if Brian Flores is the reason why this waiting game exists, then maybe, just maybe, we have a real shot at getting this guy. I know I'm gonna be a bit disappointed if we come to find out that they waited on Flores and they didn't land him, because I'm still traumatized from a couple years ago. I need to know that my guys are capable of closing deals, that they're able to get a guy in the building that they have circled. This is our guy. We're not letting him leave without a deal. Very different situation. The Giants made sure that John Harbaugh was their coach. John Harbaugh was about to get interviewed for all of these head coaching vacancies. They said, nah, I'm good on all that. I'm good on all that. We'll figure out the terms later, but we're going to go ahead and get this handshake agreement out the way. You're not interviewing with these other teams. I want to know that these boys are capable of closing. I want to know that they're capable of closing deals and getting shit done. So we're going to find out, I believe, soon what it's going to be at that defensive coordinator spot. Yo, Vlad, appreciate you for the $199 super chat donation. $40,000 extra. Oh, for $40 million. Hold up. $40,000 extra when we let go of Lattimore and Payne, right? 40 million, I imagine, is what we meant there. 40,000 is pocket change, but yeah, it's gonna be something significant. I think it's what, 37. I think between the two of them, that's 36, 37 million we're opening up in cap space, which would take us over 110, 115 million for the year. And all that free agency don't mean nothing. All that cap don't mean nothing if we don't spend it. Dog, Seattle is about to potentially go to the Super Bowl, and they about to be number 4 in salary cap in this upcoming offseason. Imagine that, putting that championship roster together and still being up there. But they do got some impending free agents. They got a whole list of them, and I hope Carl Scott is able to poach a couple if he gets the defensive coordinator job. That's who I want to get the job. Crossing my fingers, Carl Scott gets this job, and hopefully he brings a Josh Jobe, a Kobe Bryant, a Tariq Woolen, Boy Mafe, that type of shit, if he gets the job at some point. But yeah, man. McDermott and Quinn have a pretty good relationship. Hey, maybe McDermott don't want to be a head coach anymore. He had a good run, 9-year run in Buffalo before Josh Allen got him fired on Saturday. And that's the way I'm going to label that, because they be talking crazy on every quarterback but Josh Allen. He need to get his back kicked in too, because he be on some bullshit sometime, and I'm going to stand by that. And I like Josh Allen. Lane Hughes, appreciate you for the $199 super chat donation. HC market has to the head coaching market has to shake out. A lot of staffs to be filled. So is that the reason why we're waiting? Or we're just waiting to see how these hiring cycle goes? Because Harbaugh slowed this whole shit down. He came in like Thanos and put a cease to the entire operation of the hiring cycle. But I figured after Harbaugh, the biggest domino were to fall, that jobs were to start falling in place after that. So we'll see. We'll see. We will definitely see. I'm very curious to see how it goes. Like I said, if Bobby comes back, AP has no plan. I really don't think they got one. I think AP got to where he's at because of relationship. Well, I think it's unfair to AP because most of the people you see in this league, that's why I respect people with no tree. A lot of these people are connected to trees, and most of these people in these positions of power in the NFL, they got there because of relationships. So I don't think that's just an AP thing. I think it's the majority of the landscape. That's why Mike Tomlin, man, you got to appreciate a guy like that and what he did in his career, man, because he got that shit out the mud when everything is usually done by relationships and such. But I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. If anything else comes out, if some news breaks, I'm going to pop back out here. We could talk about it. We can react to it. We could crash out if that's what we need to do. We can sing praises if that's what we need to do. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday afternoon. If you could do me a favor and smash that thumbs up, that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed already, and keep me abreast of any news or information comes out. I will be here reacting to it as soon as I can. Carl Scott news coming soon. Brian Flores news coming soon. Or the Jonathan Gannon news that all of y'all dread coming soon. We're going to see. They got some interviews to finish up. Hail to the Washington Commanders, y'all.